What's up, you guys? So in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to get started and use the Yazi terminal-based file manager. This is the first terminal file manager I've ever used. It's written in Rust and it's pretty awesome. As you guys know, I love working inside of the terminal, and tools like Yazi can bring some really nice improvements to your workflow and productivity. Along with this video, I'll have a link in the description to a blog post you can follow with everything I'm going to be doing, so you can easily copy and paste any code or commands I'm using and set this up on your own machine as well. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is install Yazi. You can take a look at the documentation to see the specific instructions to install Yazi on your system. I'm on Mac OS, so I'm going to use Homebrew. As you can see here, there's quite a few optional dependencies that you can install to make sure that everything works out of the box. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, go back to the terminal. I'm going to paste that in and press enter to install all of the different packages. Once you have everything installed, you can type out Yazi and press enter to open it up. I want to show you guys a couple of other things you can set up here. I'm going to do Control-C to exit Yazi, and then I'm going to go ahead and open my .zshrc file with NeoVim. You can open it with the editor of your choosing. I'm going to do nvim /.zshrc. Go to the bottom, and I'm going to add the following code here. This will make it so that whenever we exit Yazi, it'll automatically cd into the directory we were in. I'm going to save this. This would work if you're using bash or zsh like I am. You can go to the Yazi documentation, and over in the quick start, you'll see that this is the code that I was using, but there's also snippets for fish and some other shells here. Now I'll go back to the terminal, save and close this file, and now I can open Yazi by doing Y and enter. And if I go into this node modules folder by doing L to go to the right, and then I exit Yazi by doing Control-C, you'll see that it'll move me right into that node modules folder. Now before I continue, I do want to show you guys how to get started with the configuration and what I think is the easiest way to learn Yazi and modify all the different defaults. Let's go to our home directory by doing cd and enter. Now the Yazi configuration will be in your home folder /.config/Yazi. So I'm going to go ahead and create this folder with make directory -p to create any missing parent directories and press enter now. Then I'll move into this directory by doing cd /.config/Yazi. Now there's 3 different configuration files. I want to create all 3 of them. I'm going to use touch to do so. The first one is the general configuration with yazi.toml. The second one is the keymap configuration with keymap.toml. And the third one is for your theme with theme.toml. Now if I do ls, you'll see the 3 different files here. I'm going to go ahead and open up NeoVim. You'll see the files here. I'm going to open up the yazi.toml file, which will have our general configuration. And now if I go over to the Yazi documentation and we go here to configuration, you'll see this link, which will take you to the default configuration files. You'll see them right here. You don't actually have to do this to start using Yazi, but this is helpful to modify anything to your liking, and it makes it easier to learn how everything works as well. I'm going to open the yazi-default.toml file, and I'm going to copy all of this, go back to my terminal, and then paste it. And then finally, I'm going to save this file. Now you'll see that the configuration has a bunch of different options that you can modify. For example, Yazi has 3 different panes, and here you can modify how the sizing for each pane is calculated. Sorting, if the sorting should be case insensitive, if you want to show hidden files, and a bunch of other different options. To explore all of these further, over in the Yazi documentation, you can go here to the yazi.toml section, and over here you can investigate further what each of these different options do. Now I'm going to open up the File Explorer and open up the keymap.toml file, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over here to the browser and back to the default files. I'm going to click here on keymap-default, copy this code, and then paste it in. And then again here, you'll see all of the different key maps that you can use to do different things in Yazi. I'm going to go back to the default configuration here over at yazi.toml. And I'm going to switch to a different Tmux window so we can open up Yazi. I'm going to do Y and press enter to open it up. And now we can start exploring everything. Let's go back to the configuration here. If, for example, I change the ratio here for the first pane to be 2 and save that, go back to Yazi, and then I'm going to exit Yazi and open it up again. You'll see that this pane here on the left is a bit wider. I think that's nice. Go over to the configuration. I do want to show hidden directories, so I'm going to change show hidden to true. Now let's go back to Yazi, close it with Q. I'm going to open it up again with Y and enter, and you'll see that hidden directories are shown now. Now to move around in Yazi, you can use J and K to go down and up, just like in Vim or NeoVim. You can use L to go to the right and H to go to the left. Let's say I want to go to this static directory here and go into it by pressing L. You'll see that I have this directory for images. I'll do L again to go into that. I'll go down here to how to set up Alacrity Terminal, go into it by pressing L. And then if I go down one here, you'll see that Yazi by default supports image previews, which is really nice. This does depend on the terminal emulator that you're using. I currently use WesTerm and I have a full video on how to set that up. You'll find a link up on the screen here if you want to learn how to set it up. Over in the Yazi documentation, you can take a look at the image preview section so you can see which terminal emulators support the image preview by default. You'll see here that Kitty, iTerm2, and WesTerm are 3 different terminals that support it. I'd also point out that Yazi recommends adding these options to your tmux.conf if you're a Tmux user and want the previews to work properly. For some reason, I don't think I have this in my Tmux configuration, but the previews seem to be working just fine. You'll want to run this code afterwards to kill Tmux and start it up again as well. Now I do think this preview is a bit too small. I'm going to go back to the configuration and you'll see here that you can change some settings for the image preview here. I'm going to change this max width to 1200 and this max height to 1000. This can be whatever you like. Do note that this value is used for preloading images, and the larger you make it, the larger the image cache will be, which will consume more CPU. I'm going to go ahead and save this. We'll also have to run Yazi -- clear cache in order for this change to work. I'll go back to the terminal here. I'm going to go back to Yazi, close it with Q. Then I'm going to do Yazi -- clear - cache, and then press Y to open it up. Now if I go down to the thumbnail again, you'll see that it's bigger than before. Now I also want to change how Yazi itself looks. You can modify the theme manually, but I'm going to use a theme that someone already created. I'm going to go back to the Yazi configuration here, and I'm going to open the File Explorer. And the first thing we'll have to do is create a new directory called flavors. I'm going to go ahead and add a new directory here called flavors. Now in the Yazi documentation, I recommend you go over here to theme.toml, and to find a ready-made theme, you can click here on yazi-rs/flavors, and you'll find quite a few different Yazi flavors here. The one I like is called Nightfly. I'm going to click on it here. Then you'll see that to install it, you can use the following line of code. We can use yapack to install and manage Yazi plugins and flavors. I'm going to go ahead and copy this code, open up the terminal. I'm going to close NeoVim here with :Q and enter. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this code to install this flavor. Okay, so actually that command is wrong. I'm going to paste it in again, and we have to remove this .yazi at the end and then press enter to install it. All right, looks like that worked. I'm going to open up NeoVim again. Now you'll see that under flavors, we have the nightfly.yazi flavor. And now to enable it, we can go here to theme.toml, which is where we configure the theme. And I'm going to add here a section called flavor. And we're going to add dark equals nightfly to use it in dark mode and also use it in light mode. I'll go back to Yazi, close it with Q. Open it up again, and you'll see that the theme has changed. It looks like this theme actually isn't working that well for me. The status bar still has the old colors. I think it's because Yazi has gone through some changes. This used to work in an older version of it. I'm gonna go ahead and install another flavor. I'll go over here to the configuration, close NeoVim, Over in the Yazi flavors, I'll open up the capuchin mocha flavor. And down here, I'm going to copy this code to go ahead and install it. Go back to the terminal, paste that in and run it. There we go. I'm going to open up NeoVim again, go to theme.toml, and change this here to capuchin-mocha. Save that, go back to Yazi. I'm going to go ahead and close it and open it up again. And now it's using the new flavor. All right, now let's go through more of the key maps and things you can do. As I mentioned earlier, you can go up and down with J and K, and to the left and to the right with H and L. If I go to the left with H, you can use GG to go to the top and Shift G to go to the bottom, same as in Vim or NeoVim. Now, if you installed all of the optional add-ons like I did at the beginning of the video, you can use Z to jump to a specific directory with Zoxide. How Zoxide works is that it'll remember all of the different directories that you've moved into with it. I use Zoxide on my terminal setup. I have a video on amazing CLI tools you should try where I explain more of how Zoxide works. If I press Z, a list will come up with all of the different directories that I've moved into with Zoxide before. And this is great because now I can look it up. For example, I can look up the Yazi config here by typing out Yazi, pressing enter, and it'll automatically move me into that directory within Yazi. If I do that again and I want to go back to where I was, which was my SvelteKit blog, I can type out blog here, and that's the first result. I can press enter and I'm back into that directory. Now within a directory here in Yazi, you can use capital Z to look for something with FZF, which is an amazing fuzzy finder that, again, if you want to learn more about, I talk about FZF in my amazing CLI tools video. This will recursively look through all of the different directories within the directory you're currently in. For example, let's say I want to find my button component. A couple of results show up here. I want this first one. I can press enter and it's taken me there. Now, if you want to go back to the directory you were in previously, you can do Shift and H. I'll do that again. You'll see that I'm going back to the directories I had been in previously. And if you want to go back forwards, you can do Shift and L. Now, if you want to open a specific file, you can use O or Enter. I'm going to press O here. You'll see that it opened up in NeoVim for me, but this depends on a specific environment variable that you're using. I'm going to close NeoVim, and you'll see that it'll take me back to Yazi. I'll close Yazi with Q, and I'll open up my ZSH-RC file like so. Down at the bottom, you can export an environment variable called editor and set this to the editor that you would like Yazi to use. I'm going to specify NeoVim here, but this can be whichever editor you prefer. If we go back to the Yazi configuration and I go over here to yazi.toml, you'll find here under the opener settings that when we edit a file with Yazi, it'll use this editor environment variable to open that file. In Windows, it seems to use the code command, but you can modify all of this to your liking. These are all different openers, and down here, you'll find different rules depending on the file type for when to use each different opener. As you can see, if it's a text file, it'll first use edit, but if it's an image file, it'll use open instead. On my Mac, it'll just open the image with the open command. If I go back here to Yazi, I'll go back up a directory here, up another one, up another one. I'm using H to do that. I'll go down to static, go to the right with L, go inside again with L, go in this one, go down to this thumbnail. If I want to open this image up, I can press O and it'll open it up with the default application I have for that. Now let's say you want to open more than one file. You can go down here and you can actually select more than one file with the space bar. I'm going to select more than one file here and I'm going to press O and you'll see that it opened up all three of them. Now let's say you want to copy these three files, then you can use Y for yank. If I do P, it'll paste them. You'll see now that it pasted a copy of each file. Now you can unyank by doing capital Y. You can also cut specific files with X. I'm going to do space and space here and press X to cut. If I go to the left here and do P, it'll move them up a directory. I'll do space, space, and X again. Again, if you want to undo this, you can do capital X. Now, if you want to delete a file, you can do D, and this will move the file to the trash. It'll ask for confirmation first. If I do want to move it to the trash, I can do Y for yes. If you want to permanently remove the file instead of moving it to the trash, you can do capital D. I'll do Y for yes. I'll go back into the previous directory by doing Shift and H, and I'm going to go ahead and also delete this copied file here with capital D and yes. You can also create a new file by doing A. I'll just call this new file and press enter, and you can rename the file by doing R and then rename the file. I'll do renamed file. Again, I'll delete it with capital D and Y for yes. You can also show the information for a specific file by pressing tab. We can see the format, the size of the image, and some more information as well. You can also see in the status bar that it's 1.6 megabytes. To close this, I'll do escape. I forgot to mention earlier that if you have several things selected here with space, you can cancel the selection with escape. You can also select all files with Control A. This won't work for me because I'm in Tmux and that's my prefix, but I could modify this if I wanted to. I'm back here in the keymap.toml file. You'll see here this Control A is for selecting all of the files. I could, for example, change to S-A for Shift A. I'll save this, go back to Yazi, close it with Q, open it up again with Y and enter. And if I do Shift A, it'll select all of the files. And if I press escape, it'll undo the selection. You can also toggle the visibility of hidden files by pressing dot and show them again with dot. You can also use semicolon to run a specific shell command. This will run in the background. If you use regular colon, then the command you run will be blocking instead. You can also copy file names and file paths. If I do C, it'll show me some hints for what I can do now. If I do C again, it'll copy the file path. D, it will copy the directory. F, copy the file name, and N, copy the file name without the extension. If I do C to copy the file path, then let's do semicolon to run a shell command, and I do command V, it'll paste the file path in here. Very handy. You can also filter files with F. I'm going to filter everything that says terminal, for example. I'm gonna undo this with escape. You can use / to find next. Let's look for 2, press enter. Then I can use N to go through the results and Shift N to go backwards. If you use /, it'll look forwards, but if you do question mark, it'll look backwards. I'm gonna do escape now. We can also use S to look for a file with FD. I'm gonna look for amazing. There we go. I'm going to press escape. We can also look for files according to the contents within them. I'm going to go back up with H again, go into the src directory, into the lib directory. And then let's say I want to look for a file that has a specific line of code. We can do capital S to look for a file with ripgrep. Let's look for files that have a div tag. There we go. We have 2 different files. And then again, you can clear the search with escape. You can also cancel the search with Control S. You can also take a look at the sorting section in the keymap.toml file we copied over earlier. I'm going to use this -S to sort by file size. I'll go back to Yazi, go into the components directory here and do -S. It'll sort it by the file size and also show the size on the right-hand side. I'll go back to alphabetically by doing -A. You can also change if you want to show the file sizes with M, and you'll see here a couple of different line mode options. You can use S for the size, M for the time, O for the owner. Let's do S, you'll see the size. If you do MO, it'll change to the owner. If you do MM, it'll show the modification time. If you do MN, it'll remove the information. Over in yazi.toml, you can change the line mode default to whatever you'd like. You can see a list of the different options over here in the documentation. For example, let's say you always want to show the file size. We change this to size, save this, go back to Yazi, close it with Q, open it up again. You'll see the file sizes show up now. I'm going to go back to none here, close Yazi again, and open it up again. Now the last thing I want to show you, I've opened up here the keymap.toml file. You'll see that there's a couple of keymaps to move into directories that you might visit often. For example, you can do GH to go back to the home directory, GC to go to your config directory, GD to go to the downloads folder, and you can add more of these if you want to. Let's go back to Yazi here. Let's do GC to go to our .config directory. Let's go back to where we were before with Shift and H. And the last thing I want to show you guys is how to use tabs in Yazi. You can do T to create a new tab. Let's do T again to create a third one. And you can go back and forth with opening square bracket or closing square bracket. Let's say in tab here 3, I go into the forms directory. So you can see a difference here. Just go back to tab 2 with the opening square bracket. If I want to swap this with tab 3, you can do closing curly brace. If I want to undo that, I can do opening curly brace. If you want to go to a specific tab, you can also use the number. So let's go to tab 1 with 1, or tab 3 with 3, or tab 2 with 2. As you can see here in the keymap.toml, this is set up for tabs 1 through 9. Now to close a specific tab, you can do Control C, and I'll do Control C again. And that's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys. Also, if you want to see the help, you can do tilde, and it'll show you all of the different keymaps that you can use. I'm going to press Escape here. You can also use F1 to do this. And that's it. Pretty cool. Alright you guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting and helpful. If you're interested in purchasing a Corne keyboard like the one that I've been using throughout this video and I use daily, as some of you may know, I run a small split keyboard shop called Split Type, where you can build and configure your own Corne V4 keyboard, which doesn't require any soldering and is pretty beginner friendly. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like down below. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions or feedback for me. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more content like this from me. See you guys in the next one. Peace.